Welcome and welcome back, everybody, to the Okay Grognard Show. It is Monday, May 3rd, 2021, 10 a.m. Central in beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Well, today we're going to just do a sort of a general update on the Okay Grognard Show, Lake Geneva Games, Creative Mountain Games, all of the various interests in gaming that I have, I suppose. It is intended to just kind of fill in some gaps, things that I've been doing and things I will be doing later. And for starters, we'll talk about the OK Grognard Show. As everybody who follows the show knows, I've been doing the OK Grognard Show since everything shut down last March 26th, I think was the first day. And I did a show daily up through mid-December, which point I took a break until mid-January and came back with the show then. The show in 2020 tended to be longer. I experimented with a bunch of different general gaming things. I was experimenting with some miniatures painting, which I just don't do fast enough to really do any sort of a useful show for tutorials or anything like that. It was more of a experiment for me to get some stuff done. But I paint sporadically. I don't have the skills to put out a regular show that's going to be useful for people to watch and gain any knowledge. It was fun, but it was one of 7 segments as I was doing different segments all during the week. I did a couple of shows on board gaming, which tended to be long and weren't super useful for learning the games, as we were often fumbling around learning the games ourselves while we were playing them. And yeah, who wants to sit and watch people fumble through a game for 4 hours or whatever, how long it took? You know, it was often 2.5, 3 hours or more, and sometimes even longer. And that made for huge video files for uploading to YouTube where I archive the shows. That wasn't really that useful, so we kind of got away from that at one point. I spent some time uh, enjoying uh, reviewing some television shows that are kind of gamer adjacent. Uh, the Dungeons and Dragons animated show and some Conan the Adventurer animated shows, and also reviewed the some of the classic Ray Harryhausen movies, the ones that he worked on as a visual effects artist, and I enjoyed doing all of those. But you know, you can only do so much of that and spend so much time doing that. So those, I think, stand as specials for what they were. But as far as the OK Grognard show is concerned, it wasn't really the wheelhouse for those. Um, I think the real wheelhouse for the OK Grognard show is what it became in 2021, which is focused on first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons and the rules therein, and my own use of them in my own campaigns and games since I've been playing 40 plus years, 45 years as a 47 years now as a D&D player since 1974. Advanced, of course, coming out later in the 70s, so good long time. But that really that really is the area where my own gaming focus, as far as RPGs are concerned, is, and that, as it turned out, I think was the area where I could focus on the most. I enjoy doing some reviews of some old school Renaissance game products, and that's fun. And I think I'll still find some time to do some of that in later shows in 2021. Of course, the two main things I think that changed from 2020 to 2021 were in making the show more focused and not as long, a half hour or less seems to be better for me, and I think better for people to watch too, who has time to watch hours of show every day, 7 days a week. So cutting it back also to just Mondays and Thursdays, I think was an important change for the OK Grognard Show as well. And it may actually become shorter as we get further into 2021 and we focus it, hone it down even further. So we'll see how that goes. Um, I'm also attempting to upgrade some of the visuals to put out a better looking video. It's kind of hard to tell from what you're seeing in the stream, I think, because you can only stream at certain levels. And then if you're recording the stream, you can only record up to the level or quality, as far as I can tell so far. And I'm still experimenting with that. But we'll see. What we archive on YouTube is what is seen in the stream. I don't do post production work. I'm not looking to do a lot of editing. This is live and it's recorded live. And what winds up getting archived is exactly what you would see if you were watching the stream. So it's meant to be not a lot of work, and I think that's important because if I'm going to keep going with this long term, it has to be something that is not difficult and not a lot of off behind the scenes production work is not something I'm interested in doing a lot of either. So whatever I can do to upgrade the show for the stream itself, and then what gets recorded is what you'll see. So we'll see. I may invest in a better camera. I may upgrade the sound in some ways. We'll see what I can do on that score as we continue into 2021. Those are the main goals of the show. Thursday, focus on rules. Shows are rules as written, says George. Fun and always interesting. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. Um, I think that's important that they be fun for me because that way they're hopefully fun for whoever takes the time to watch them, whether you're coming into the stream like Sarah is, who totally thinks they're great. Well, she said totally, so I think she means on the fun and always interesting part. We'll continue to do what we're doing, basically content wise, um, kind of doing out of game stuff on Mondays and rules and in game stuff on Thursdays. That seems to fit what I can do best and what I enjoy doing, and I think that's important if the show is going to continue and is going to last in its current incarnation. So that's the OK Grognard show for you. What else did we want to look at today? Oh, I wanted to talk about how like Geneva Games is doing. I want to thank absolutely everybody who has been working toward or has been visiting Lake Geneva Games since it opened in the middle of April. The 2 weeks, 3 weekends that it's been open so far have been tremendous for the store. People have turned out in droves to support the store, to make purchases, to stop in and say hello and congratulate the store for outlasting the pandemic. And even as it becomes more of what it used to be once the game rooms are fully open and events are running, I think you'll find that It's not only the store it always was, but an even better version of itself. Jason, Jason is totally to be commended for upgrading the retail area of the store, reorganizing it, making it more consumer friendly when they come in, displaying things more naturally and outer facing and better so you can see what's in the store much more easily. Moving the soda machine in back freed up a lot of space. Moving the demo table out of the front toward the big room in the back was also a gain for the retail area. Adjusting the way the shelves were fitting. Um, he made some fantastic acquisitions, tripling I think the number of dice selection that we have at the store at Lake Geneva Games. And I say we. I'm not working there right now. I'll be back there later in the summer. But I say we as a member of the Lake Geneva Games community, if nothing else at this point. And I think everybody who's part of that community knows how wonderful it is to have a great game store in Lake Geneva, in the birthplace of D&D. It's something that was very important to gamers in the area, including myself, including Jason. I should give a big shout out, pat on the back, whatever you want to call it, to both Jesse and Ken, who are helping Jason now, picking up some part-time hours like they did prior to closing. Ken is the stalwart, long-time employee. He was working there back in the day and then joined the store again about a year before the pandemic hit, and has just fantastically helped out Jason since reopening, helping him get things organized and picking up hours on Wednesday and some other days as well. Wednesday being kind of his anchor day, and so too Jesse, picking up Fridays and helping out behind the scenes to organize the many sets of magic cards that needed to be collated into stock. The website's still not open. The focus has been on local sales, local consumers. Um, I think that's the first step and the best step for the store as well, to make sure that we're taking care of everybody who walks through the door, who lives in the community, who has missed the game store and has uh, been very concerned that the store does return in all its glory. And so far, so good. Sales have been through the roof. It's been fantastic, and it bodes well for not just the reopening, but for the long-term health of the game store. And I couldn't be more pleased. When I moved up here 10 years ago, one of the uh, one of the selling points on me moving to Lake Geneva was, in part, its storied history. I'd been coming up here since the 70s for Gen Con, and when it was still in Lake Geneva, I've been coming up here since 2009 for Gary Con, since they started up after the passing of Gary, and coming up here just to game with some of the locals who are friends of mine. And one of the selling points, as I say, was the fact that there was a game store in Lake Geneva that Jason had started in 2010. So the fact that then it was a fledgling game store was just getting off the ground, and it's grown and grown and grown over the years. Um, can't imagine, can't imagine a place with a history like Lake Geneva not having a game store. And when it was very heartbreaking when the store had to close because of the pandemic, not just for for Jason, but for myself and for Jesse and Ken and for the entire community of gamers, many of whom regularly use the store, like Sarah, who's in chat right now, to regularly play games in the game space there, and to have things that they can purchase at hand that they enjoy playing and using at the game table. So getting back to that and fully getting back to that in the next couple of months is going to be a primary goal for Jason. I know we talk all the time, so I can assure you if he hasn't expressed that to you, and I think he's been very transparent with anyone who asks or whenever he gets a chance to talk about it, that is a primary goal of his uh, in getting the game store back fully on its feet, fully functioning, and back to where it was prior to closing, and even better. And so far, it's all signs point to that working out quite well. What else about the game store? Oh, I guess I should talk a little bit also about my own sort of dormant interest in Creative Mountain Games, a kind of an imprint company, e-publishing company that I founded 20 years ago. Um, did a lot of products through the early 2000s, the first decade. Um, I think I have a couple of dozen products over that time. Less so in the last 5 years. Working at the game store full time kind of takes a lot of your time up. And I've always been one who believed that if you work in the game industry, you shouldn't allow it to be a detriment to the amount of gaming that you actually do. Uh, if you love games and you play a lot of games and you want to create some games, sometimes you can allow that to take away from the amount of time you actually get to spend playing games. And I've uh, never been one to let that be the case for myself. So even though I was managing the game store full time and still noodling around with some creative mountain game stuff, I I made sure I still got all my gaming time in. Still played board games 2, 3 times a week. Uh, Added Magic into the mix some time back. Still managed to get that in once or twice, or sometimes more if there was a big release in a week or a weekend. Um, Role playing games. I've since coming up here run 5 different campaigns that were anywhere from a half a year to several years. Um, so there was very little downtime from running games. Um, Divided that time over the last 7 years, 6 years between fifth edition and first edition. But first edition's always my first love, I guess. Really, as far as D&D is concerned, it's the one where even though I did DM some original D&D, I really hit my stride when first edition came out and started running regular campaigns. And that's what I like doing. And I have every intention as we get to the other side of this pandemic of starting up another first edition AD&D campaign. There'll be more on that as we get closer to that possibility. I've talked to a few different people about it, and we'll continue to do so. We'll try to find a regular day for it. In all likelihood, we'll be doing that at the game store. It may be off hours, or it may be when someone else has the helm and behind the counter. Either way, we'll work it out and figure it out for sure. And of course, anybody who's interested, who's a regular in the chat or a regular follower of the show, should let me know if they're interested in that, and we'll make sure you get kept informed of when it's possible for that to happen, and if you can. And certainly, you're welcome to join if there's room, and I think there probably will be. I like big tables with lots of players, so it's important to me to run AD&D in that way. More fun. More fun to have a bigger table. The last campaign I ran started off with, I think, 10 players. Of course, people have lives and jobs that changed schedules and whatnot. I think we lost a couple, picked up another, so I think we were at 9 players when we had to shut it down last year. But pretty soon we'll get back to that, and that's part of Creative Mountain Games discussion because I've certainly noodled around with some things um, over the 5 years of running the store. I've play tested some adventures. I've worked on the setting that I've had for 45 years, and all of that stuff is stuff that should eventually be Creative Mountain Games offerings. So I'm hoping to put some of that together over the next couple few years. Try to carve out a little more time in the future uh, for doing that. Even though I'll be going back to the game store and still playing games when I can, I do want to make sure that Creative Mountain Games comes a bit more to the forefront again and put out a few things that have been backburnered for a while. Um, I've never been huge on hitting specific deadlines for those things because my feeling was always when they're ready to be published, when they're ready to be shared, then they will be and not before. I don't like to rush anything. I don't like for anything to be compromised because of a deadline, feeling like I have to get something out when I'm not sure it's ready enough. Again, I'm not a perfectionist. Um, Stuff doesn't have to be perfect for me to share it. I like it to be good. I like it to be interesting. I like it to be fun. But I don't sit on these things because I'm worrying about a typo here or a typo there or something not being up to the quality of, say, Wizards of the Coast, who has such excellent production qualities. George says in the chat, that's a big group running 10, but you are relaxed and confident. DM pulling on years of experience. That's true. I've always enjoyed running the bigger games. I know during the third edition times, and of course, Creative Mountain Games has a number of third edition products, including the 3.5 SRD revised, which was usually popular, and that still gets sales. So there's still people running that, and still people looking at that as since it's 100% open game content, people can utilize those things to create their own products if they're doing third edition stuff or Pathfinder stuff. It's useful for all of that. But during that era, I think the third edition era, I generally ran between 4 to 6 players. There was a sweet spot for third edition to have 4, and if you kept 6 people in a campaign and 1 or even 2 people couldn't show up in a given week, as long as you had that kind of core 4 players, uh, you could balance the system, balance adventures using that system for those players quite easily. Uh, with first edition, I find it easy to run with smaller numbers, but just as easy with bigger numbers. So I enjoy having the larger tables, more people playing, and it's fun that way for me. Anyway, the clock on the wall. I think we've hit all the main things for our general updates here on the OK Grognard Show and Lake Geneva Games and Creative Mountain Games. I should say, hopefully, have an update soon on a old school zine I've been working on a little bit, just playing around. It's more of a hobby up till now, but more recently we can actually consider it consider it something that's getting a little more serious. So many options for 3 and 3.5 classes, says George. It's true, and I loved prestige classes as an idea too, as something to um, stay in a base class through a certain level and then branch off into one of these prestige classes, or so many of them. In that way, everybody had a sort of a nice grounding with their characters when they started, but then could develop some specialities. I think that's something that kind of came out of second edition, which had so many kits and all that other stuff. Um, little beyond what first edition does, but first edition does it in the way you play. Um, some people are loath to have too many rules that tell you how to play a character. They'd rather you just do it in a sort of a free form style. First editions like that. Third was a little more delineated, but good for helping players that were newer to the game keep their footing as they gained levels and got higher and higher. Hello, welcome, Croxy for Lyrium, I think. Almost pronouncing that correctly, I imagine. And welcome. Be sure to follow the channel. And with that, though, I think I will also say thank you to everybody who has joined in the chat today, and also to anyone who joins us in the future. Be sure, if you follow the stream, to follow the Twitch channel. And if you're catching up with this on YouTube, well, let's not forget the show does stream on Twitch on Mondays and Thursdays at 10 a.m. Central. If you are catching up with this on YouTube, that's because we archive it over there, usually within an hour after the show streams, so you can catch it in a timely manner. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel and click the little bell to get updates for when we upload new videos to the channel. And also, please, any videos you watch, give a little thumbs up. And feel free to make comments if you have some constructive criticism or just want to join in the conversation of the topic of the day, which is usually first edition AD&D or other old school variants thereof. I want to thank everybody once again, everybody who watches and follows or subscribes to the channels. This has been the OK Grognard Show from beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Bye-bye.